What if the deepest parts of your mind, your desires, your fears, your very sense of identity, were never truly yours to begin with? From the moment you could walk, when your mind was open, trusting, and endlessly curious, they began feeding your mind. Not with truth, but with what would make you useful to the system. They designed a world within your world, an invisible cage so perfectly crafted that not only could you not see the bars, you'd fight to defend their existence. The school bell rings, a simple sound. But have you ever questioned why that sound exists? It's not to mark time, it's to condition you, like Pavlov's dogs, to respond without thinking, to train you for the 9-to-5 world waiting just beyond the classroom. Did you know the modern school system wasn't designed by educators? It was modeled after factories and prisons by industrialists who needed workers who would follow instructions without question. The rows of desks, the rigid schedules, the standardized testing, a perfect preparation for a life of compliance. Think back. Were you ever rewarded for questioning the lesson? Or were gold stars given for memorization, for accepting what you were told without challenge? Intelligence wasn't measured by your ability to think critically, but by how well you could repeat what authority figures told you to believe. As school laid the foundation, media built the walls of your mental prison. Each cartoon character wasn't just entertainment. It was a delivery system for values, for desires, for an identity shaped by forces you couldn't see. Heroes who upheld the system, villains who dared question it. And it started so young. Those happy meals with toys, those cartoons with merchandise. You weren't just being entertained. You were being conditioned to equate happiness with consumption. A neural pathway formed before you could even spell advertisement. Joy equals buying products. Every holiday, every cultural tradition, every ritual that felt so normal to you. Look closer. How many were crafted or co-opted to make your behavior predictable? To ensure you'd shop on certain days, believe certain narratives, allow your life to follow prescribed patterns? But here's where it gets truly insidious. The most powerful prison is the one you don't realize exists. You think you're making free choices. You think your dreams are your own. But have you ever stopped to question where these dreams came from? Who decided what success looks like in your mind? The degree, the career, the house, the car, the endless scroll for likes and followers. When did you consciously choose these as your metrics for a life well lived? Or were they installed in you, piece by piece, year by year, until the checklist felt like your own? Some will wake up at 18, others at 40, many never. But right now, in this moment, you have a choice. You can continue living in the world they designed for you, or you can step beyond the invisible walls and ask the question that terrifies those who built this system. What if everything I've been taught to value, to fear, to pursue was designed to benefit someone else. This isn't just another conspiracy theory. This is the operating system of modern society, hiding in plain sight because it's too normalized to question. The good news? Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Awareness is the key that unlocks the cage, and that key is now in your hand. In the coming minutes, we're going to walk step by step through each level of this programming. We'll expose the hidden mechanisms that shaped your fears, your desires, your very identity. And most importantly, we'll show you exactly how to break free and reclaim your mind as truly your own. This journey isn't comfortable. Truth rarely is. But ask yourself, would you rather live comfortably in a prison built by others, or face the temporary discomfort of breaking free? But choice, for perhaps the first time in your life, is truly yours. Let's begin at the beginning. Your programming didn't start with school. It started in the cradle. Your parents, with all their love and good intentions, were themselves products of the same system. They passed down what was passed to them. Beliefs about what makes a good child, what success looks like, what to fear. Those bedtime stories weren't just entertainment. The princess waiting to be saved, the hero who follows the rules and is rewarded, the monster who threatens those who stray from the path. These weren't just stories. They were your first lessons in how power works, who deserves love, and what happens to those who question authority. By age 3, the average child has consumed thousands of hours of educational content. But education in what? Colors and numbers, yes, but also in wanting, in needing, in defining yourself through products. Those cartoon characters weren't randomly designed. They were engineered using child psychology to create attachment, recognition, and desire. Before you could form complex thoughts, the boundaries of your possibilities were already being drawn. Boys don't cry. Girls should be nice. That's not for people like us. Don't ask questions about that. Early and often, you were taught which paths were open to you, based not on your potential, but on categories assigned to you at birth. Good job. What a good girl. If you behave, you can have. From your earliest days, your brain was being wired for external validation. The most powerful drug, approval, was dispensed or withheld based on how well you met others' expectations. Not because your parents were manipulative, but because they too had been conditioned to see obedience as the highest virtue a child could possess. Then came school, the great equalizer, or so they called it. But equal in what? Not in nurturing each child's unique gifts. Equal in processing, taking diverse, vibrant young minds and standardizing them. The hidden curriculum wasn't reading or math. It was sit still, raise your hand, ask permission, respect authority, not because it's earned, but because it exists. The bell doesn't dismiss you, I do, because I said so. That's not on the test. Do these phrases sound familiar? They should. They represent your first formal training in surrendering autonomy. The system wasn't designed to help you think. It was designed to teach you that someone else decides when you can speak, move, create, question. Even your most basic bodily functions required permission. There is only one correct answer, perhaps the most damaging lesson of all. In a world of infinite complexity and nuance, you were taught to seek the one right solution, the one that matched the answer key. Those who thought differently weren't creative, they were wrong. Standardized testing wasn't measuring intelligence. It was measuring your willingness to think inside the pre-approved box. Even the subjects themselves were weaponized against true learning. Literature focused on heroes who obeyed rather than rebels who questioned. History celebrated power rather than those who challenged it. Science emphasized memorization over exploration. Math reduced to formulas without creativity. Each subject, potentially revolutionary in its pure form, carefully neutered to prevent dangerous thinking. You're the smart one. You're just average. You're slow. The labels seemed innocent, just academic assessments, but they became prophecies, identities, limitations. A standardized test at age 8 determined your self-concept for decades. And most insidiously, you came to police yourself, to believe in your assigned category, to become the willing guard of your own mental prison. The graduation ceremony, celebrated as achievement, but in reality, just a processing milestone. Some sorted to higher education debt, others to immediate workforce integration, but all prepared for the same fundamental role: compliant consumer-producer units who would work, buy, repeat, without questioning the system itself. Your success measured by how seamlessly you fit the machine, not how boldly you reimagined it. As education laid the foundation, media built the walls. Every cartoon, every show, every advertisement wasn't just entertainment. It was shaping your understanding of what to want, who to be, what to fear. Look back at what you watched as a child. Who were the heroes? Those who maintained order, who followed rules, who worked within the system. The villains? Those who challenged authority, who lived differently, who questioned too much. The average child today consumes over 7 hours of media daily, more time than spent with parents or in school. This isn't accidental. While education taught you what to think, media showed you how to think. Through constant exposure to narratives that normalized consumption, hierarchy, and the endless pursuit of external validation. Your brain, neurologically designed to adopt the values of your tribe, absorbed these messages as truth. They didn't just want your attention. They wanted to wire your brain's reward pathways from the earliest possible age. Happy Meals with toys. Cartoon characters on cereal boxes. Holiday traditions centered around consumption. Before you could critically analyze, your neural pathways were being formed to associate joy with purchasing, identity with brands, and satisfaction with consumption. And then the master stroke, creating constant inadequacy. You weren't pretty enough, successful enough, happy enough, popular enough. Media didn't just sell products. It sold the disease of perpetual dissatisfaction, for which consumption was the only advertised cure. The gap between your reality and the ideals shown was no accident. It was the engine of an economy built on addressing manufactured wants rather than authentic needs. Let's go deeper into the educational laboratory. The modern school system wasn't designed by educators. It was created by industrialists and efficiency experts in the early 20th century. Their goal wasn't to nurture minds, but to produce standardized workers for factories. The same behavioral science used to optimize assembly lines was applied to children. Not a conspiracy, an economic strategy hiding in plain sight. The school bell, seemingly innocent, utterly powerful. Every day for years, that sound trained your nervous system to respond without question, to stop mid-thought, to move on command, to structure your day around external signals rather than internal needs. It wasn't preparing you for higher learning. It was conditioning you for the factory floor, the office cubicle, for a lifetime of 9 to 5, regardless of your natural rhythms or peak creative hours. A, B, C, D, F. Simple letters that determine your value within the system. Not just your academic standing, your human worth. The psychological impact can't be overstated. These weren't just assessments of specific tasks. They became your identity, your sense of potential, your internalized voice of judgment. The true genius of grading was how quickly children began to sort themselves, to limit their own horizons based on these external labels. Choose the best answer from the options provided. This simple instruction contains the essence of how your thinking was constrained. Real-world problems have infinite solutions, require creativity, demand critical analysis. But you were trained to 1. Believe there is always one correct answer. 2. That this answer is already known by authorities. And 3. Your job is not to create, but to select from pre-approved options. A perfect preparation for consumer culture. The greatest censorship wasn't in banning books. It was in selecting which voices were amplified and which were silenced in your education. History textbooks celebrating conquerors while minimizing revolutionaries. Literature focusing on works that reinforced rather than challenged social norms. Science presented as settled facts rather than ongoing questioning. The curriculum wasn't designed to show you the full tapestry of human knowledge, just the threads that maintained the existing pattern. Because I'm the teacher. How many times did you hear that phrase? It wasn't just about classroom management. It was training in accepting hierarchy without question. The underlying lesson: knowledge and truth don't come from evidence or your own reasoning, but from designated authorities. This mental framework transfers seamlessly to adulthood, where you accept corporate policies, government decisions, and media narratives through the same conditioned deference to authority. Mathematics, literature, science, history. The compartmentalization of knowledge wasn't accidental. By teaching subjects in isolation, your mind was trained to see the world in disconnected fragments rather than interconnected systems. This fragmentation makes it nearly impossible to understand complex, systemic issues like climate change, economic inequality, or social injustice. Problems that require integrated, cross-disciplinary thinking with perfect protection for systems that don't want to be questioned holistically. Raise your hand if you want to speak. A simple classroom procedure with profound implications. You learned that your voice, your thoughts, your very need to express required external permission. This wasn't just about classroom management. It was training in surrendering autonomy over your own voice. Look at how this extends to adulthood. Needing permission through credentials, position, status, before feeling worthy to speak on issues affecting your own life. The lesson wasn't just in the curriculum. It was in the structure. Homework after a full day of school. Tests that determined your future. Constant evaluation and ranking. This wasn't preparation for learning. It was conditioning for a lifetime of overwork, burnout, and tying your self-worth to productivity. The anxiety you feel as an adult when you take a day off, when you're not being productive, that was installed during those years of being endlessly evaluated, measured, and compared. College prep, general track, vocational training. By adolescence, the sorting was well underway. But was it based purely on your abilities and interests, or on your family's social class, your race, your gender, your conformity to expectations? The tracking systems of education weren't designed to elevate everyone. They were designed to maintain social hierarchies while creating the illusion of meritocracy. The tracks laid down in those years guide many lives to this day. While education built the foundation, media constructed the walls of your mental prison. The average adult now consumes over 11 hours of media daily, more than sleep, more than work for many. This isn't just entertainment or information. It's the primary architect of your worldview, your desires, your sense of normal. The most effective programming doesn't feel like programming at all. It feels like choice. Look closer at the stories you consumed. Who were the heroes? Those who worked within the system, who upheld existing power structures, who sacrificed for the greater good as defined by authorities. Who were the villains? Those who challenged authority, who lived outside norms, who prioritized freedom over compliance. These weren't just entertainment choices. They were lessons in who deserves admiration and who deserves scorn. And now, the news. The most insidious programming came packaged as objective information. But look closer. The narrow range of debate, the consistent framing of which issues matter, which solutions are realistic, which voices are credible. The illusion of multiple viewpoints masks the reality. Fundamental assumptions about economy, power, and social organization remain unchallenged across mainstream sources. Your mental prison has many channels, but the same walls. The average person sees between 4,000 to 10,000 advertisements daily. Each one isn't just selling a product. It's selling a worldview where consumption equals happiness, where identity comes from purchases, where inadequacy is the default state only products can fix. The most effective marketing doesn't make you want stuff. It makes you feel incomplete without it. This isn't conspiracy. It's business strategy, openly discussed in marketing boardrooms. Social media perfected what traditional media began. These platforms weren't designed to connect you. They were engineered to capture and monetize your attention through sophisticated addiction mechanisms. Every notification, every like, every refresh creates a variable reward pattern identical to slot machines. The average person touches their phone 2,600 times daily, checks it 150 times. This isn't weakness. It's the intended result of billions spent on behavioral design. Christmas, Valentine's Day, Halloween, Mother's Day. The traditions that structure your year weren't just preserved. They were engineered or co-opted to drive predictable consumption patterns. What feels like cherished tradition is often recent commercial invention. The Hallmark holiday isn't just a cynical joke. It's a business model applied to your cultural identity, transforming authentic human connection into scheduled consumption. That warm, nostalgic feeling, carefully cultivated to trigger your wallet. The celebrity seems like entertainment, but serves as the perfect delivery system for programming. You don't just watch them. You form parasocial relationships, emotional connections to figures carefully crafted to embody and normalize system values while delivering consumer messaging. Their authentic lifestyle posts, their personal brand endorsements, bypass your critical thinking through the relationship you feel with them. Their political opinions, their consumer choices, all normalize the narrow band of acceptable thought. The most brilliant strategy wasn't making you want things. It was making you feel fundamentally inadequate without them. Every advertisement contains the same subtext. You are not enough. Not attractive enough, successful enough, happy enough, loved enough. This manufactured inadequacy creates the perpetual void that drives consumption. The gap between your reality and the ideals shown isn't accidental. It's the engine of an economy built on addressing manufactured wants rather than authentic needs. Success, freedom, security, normal. The programming runs deepest through language itself. Each word carries hidden assumptions, prescribed limitations. Success means career advancement and material acquisition, not meaningful contribution or personal fulfillment. Freedom means consumer choice, not genuine autonomy. Security means protection of property, not well-being. These definitions weren't natural. They were programmed through repetition across media, education, and culture to constrain your conceptual possibilities. 9 to 5, working for the weekend. Thank God it's Friday. The time structure of your entire life normalized, unchallenged. The 40-plus hour work week wasn't natural or inevitable. It was a social construction, yet it defines the rhythm of most lives. We celebrate the weekend as freedom without questioning. Why is the majority of our waking life dedicated to work? Why is it normal to need escape from our primary activity? This time structure wasn't designed for human flourishing. It was optimized for economic output. From one institution to another, school prepares you for college, which prepares you for what exactly? The programming continues with student loans, financial chains that ensure compliance for decades. The average graduate now carries $37,000 in debt. This isn't just a financial burden, it's a control mechanism that restricts career choices, risk-taking, dissent. You can't challenge a system when you depend on it to pay your monthly debt service. The academic content is almost secondary to this economic function. Notice the seamless transition from education to employment. The corporate workplace is just the classroom rebranded. Raise your hand, ask permission, follow the schedule, respect authority based on title, not merit. Accept evaluation from above. The rituals change slightly, but the fundamental dynamic remains. Your compliance and productivity are monitored, measured, and controlled by systems designed to extract maximum value, while maintaining hierarchical power structures. Your K-12 training prepared you perfectly. Work hard and you'll get ahead. But ahead to where? The modern career path often resembles a treadmill more than a journey. Each promotion brings marginal financial improvement, but demands exponentially more time, stress, and sacrifice. The promised fulfillment remains perpetually just beyond the next achievement. This isn't a failure of the system. It's the system functioning as designed. The carrot must always stay just out of reach to maintain motivation in a system built on extraction rather than flourishing. The house, the car, the lifestyle, the things you were told to strive for become the chains that bind you. Each acquisition creates new obligations, maintenance, insurance, status competition. The freedom promised by material success transforms into the anxiety of potential loss. This isn't a side effect. It's the mechanism that keeps you compliant. Debt ensures you keep working. Fear of loss ensures you don't question the system. Your possessions end up possessing you just as the system designed. Social media perfected the art of comparison as control. Each scroll delivers carefully curated moments from others' lives, creating a perpetual sense of inadequacy. This isn't just FOMO, it's social programming through comparison, training you to measure your raw footage against others' highlight reels. The anxiety this creates doesn't just sell products. It maintains compliance with social norms by making deviation seem risky and conformity the safer path to validation. Who are you, really? The modern adult typically maintains multiple fragmented identities: professional self, family self, social media self, consumer self. This fragmentation isn't just exhausting, it's a fundamental disconnection from authenticity. Each context demands a slightly different performance, and over time, the performer may lose touch with the authentic being beneath the roles. This disconnection creates the perfect conditions for external control. When you don't know who you truly are, others define you more easily. Fear remains the most reliable control mechanism. The average adult consumes a diet of news, scientifically engineered to maximize threat perception. Crime, terrorism, economic collapse, health scares. This isn't just information. It's a neurological manipulation that keeps your amygdala activated, triggering the brain's safety-seeking mechanisms. A population in perpetual fear is less likely to take risks, question authority, or demand change. Safety becomes more valuable than freedom. Compliance more attractive than dissent. The ultimate control strategy. Redefine system-created suffering as individual pathology. Anxiety from financial insecurity becomes an anxiety disorder. Depression from meaningless work becomes a chemical imbalance. Restlessness in rigid environments becomes ADHD. This isn't to deny these conditions exist, but notice how the solution is always to modify the individual to better tolerate the system, never to question whether the system itself creates these responses. The perfect prison doesn't fight resistance. It diagnoses it, medicates it, and bills your insurance for the service. The grind. Rise and hustle. Sleep when you're dead. The newest evolution of work programming glorifies exhaustion as virtue. Social media influencers, CEOs, and cultural messaging celebrate overwork, sleep deprivation, and the sacrifice of well-being for productivity. This isn't just toxic culture. It's the system's response to increasing awareness about work-life balance. By reframing exploitation as aspiration, the boundaries that might protect your humanity are voluntarily surrendered. Your exhaustion isn't just accepted, it's now posted as a LinkedIn achievement. Your most valuable resource isn't your time or money, it's your attention. The modern attention economy extracts and monetizes this finite cognitive resource with unprecedented efficiency. Every notification, headline, and scroll is engineered to hijack your focus. This isn't just annoying, it's a fundamental drain on your capacity for deep thought, for questioning, for imagining alternatives. A mind constantly pulled into shallow engagement lacks the sustained focus needed to see through programming. Your distraction isn't a side effect, it's the product being sold. But there is hope. The programming, no matter how comprehensive, has cracks. For some, awakening comes through crisis, job loss, illness, or grief that disrupts the programmed patterns. For others, it's gradual pattern recognition, noticing the inconsistencies, the manipulations, the gap between promised fulfillment and lived experience. Some find it through exposure to different cultures or perspectives that reveal the arbitrariness of what seemed normal. However it begins, the first step is the same: seeing the invisible bars of your mental cage. The most powerful tool for breaking free is metacognition, the ability to observe your own thinking. When you can step back and watch your reactions, your desires, your fears as objects of awareness rather than truth, the programming loses its grip. Notice when you feel the pull to consume. Notice when you feel inadequate after scrolling social media. Notice when fear appears after watching the news. This isn't just mindfulness, it's recognizing the programming as it operates in real time. The first step to dismantling it. The questions that break the spell are deceptively simple. Who benefits from me believing this? Who decided this was normal? What if there's another way? These aren't just philosophical musings. They're acts of cognitive rebellion. Question the definition of success you've been sold. Question whether productivity should be life's central value. Question why dissatisfaction feels so permanent, despite acquiring what you were told would fulfill you. Each genuine question creates a crack in the programming, letting authentic awareness shine through. Truth-seeking becomes a revolutionary act. When you begin exploring beyond approved sources, you discover that history is far more complex than your textbook suggested. You find that revolutionary thinkers were sanitized or erased. You learn about successful alternative systems that challenged dominant power structures. This isn't about conspiracy theories. It's about broadening access to the full spectrum of human knowledge and experience, much of which was deliberately excluded from your programming to limit your imagination of what's possible. Be warned. Awakening isn't always comfortable. As you begin questioning programming, you'll likely experience cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort when new realizations conflict with existing beliefs. You may face resistance from others still committed to the system. You might experience an identity crisis as you separate from programmed values. These aren't signs you're on the wrong path. They're evidence of real change. The programming doesn't release its grip without a fight. The discomfort is not failure. It's part of the liberation process. A profound discovery awaits in awakening. Genuine fulfillment exists, but not where the programming directed you to look. True contentment rarely comes from purchases, achievements, or status. It emerges from experiences the system can't commodify. Deep connection, creative expression, contribution to others, moments of presence and meaning. This isn't just philosophy. Extensive happiness research confirms that extrinsic pursuits, wealth, fame, image, provide minimal, lasting satisfaction compared to intrinsic experiences, autonomy, mastery, purpose, connection. The joy the system couldn't deliver becomes accessible when you stop seeking it where you were programmed to look. Beneath layers of programming lies your authentic self, not some mystical essence, but the person you might have become without systematic conditioning. Reclaiming this authenticity involves distinguishing between conditioned desires. I should want this career, look, lifestyle, and genuine ones. Actually brings me joy and aligns with my values. It means developing internal validation instead of seeking external approval. Most profoundly, it means embracing the parts of yourself that were rejected for being incompatible with the system. Your creativity, sensitivity, questioning nature, unique perspective. Liberation requires practical steps, beginning with reclaiming your attention. Consider a radical information diet. structured time away from social media, news fasts, notification elimination. This isn't about ignorance. It's about creating the mental space necessary for original thought. When your mind isn't constantly filled with external voices, your own voice emerges. Many report profound shifts after even brief digital detoxes. Reduced anxiety, clearer thinking, reconnection with direct experience instead of mediated reality. Your attention is your most precious resource. Taking it back is a revolutionary act. You are not alone in this awakening. Finding or building community with others questioning the same programming creates powerful reinforcement. These connections provide crucial support when facing resistance, share strategies for deprogramming, and most importantly, help normalize what the system labeled as deviant. Your authentic desires, your questions, your alternative vision. This isn't just emotional comfort. Numerous studies show that social support is the strongest predictor of resilience through major life changes. The system isolated you by design. Reconnection is both healing and revolutionary. Creative expression becomes a powerful deprogramming tool. When you create, whether through art, writing, music, movement, you access parts of yourself that weren't shaped by conditioning. You practice bringing inner truth into external form without concern for evaluation or utility. This isn't about becoming a professional artist. It's about reclaiming your voice, your unique perspective, your capacity to generate rather than merely consume. The joy in creating something that never existed before is a direct challenge to a system that trained you primarily as a consumer of prepackaged experiences. Beyond awareness lies active reprogramming. Your brain's neuroplasticity, its ability to form new neural pathways, means you can consciously install new patterns to replace the programming. Visualization, affirmations, cognitive restructuring, and mindfulness aren't just self-help concepts. They're practical tools for rewiring neural pathways. The key difference from the original programming: this time, you choose the values and beliefs consciously based on what creates genuine well-being, rather than what serves external systems. You become the programmer rather than the programmed. Fear was the primary tool used to control you. Learning to master it becomes essential for freedom. This isn't about eliminating fear, but transforming your relationship with it. When you recognize fear-based messaging in media, you can observe without absorbing. When you notice scarcity anxiety triggering consumption, you can choose different responses. When social fears arise around nonconformity, you can find courage in purpose. Fear doesn't need to control your actions. It can simply be information, letting you know where the system is applying pressure to maintain compliance. A critical step in liberation is consciously redefining success. The metrics programmed into you, income, title, possessions, followers, were designed to keep you serving systems that may not serve you. What if success meant sustainable happiness instead of achievement? What if it prioritized contribution over competition? What if relationship depth mattered more than relationship status? This isn't just philosophical. It's practical reimagining of what constitutes the good life. When you consciously design your own metrics, you free yourself from the endless treadmill of pursuing system-defined achievements that rarely deliver promised fulfillment. One of the most direct paths to freedom is simplifying your needs. When you need less, you can work less. When you work less, you have more time for what truly matters. When you reduce expenses, you reduce dependence on systems that exploit your labor. This isn't about deprivation. It's about discovering that many programmed needs were actually manufactured wants that reduced your freedom. Many who embrace simplicity report greater life satisfaction, reduced stress, and most importantly, a sense of reclaiming their time and life energy for purposes they consciously choose, rather than externally imposed demands.